So I'm recording right now. I'm talking with one of our clients, Dr. Young, who's the founding physician at Mid-Iowa Fertility, just outside of Des Moines. A two-doctor physician group there, has been a client of Fertility Bridges for about a year. And I'm not sure that even if I thought how well we would do in an engagement, that you would ever do a testimonial for me. And here we are on a video talk talking about it. And I guess, I'm curious of why did you come to us in the first place? What was the challenge or the monkey on your back that led you to seek us out?
I saw you at I think it was the SREI Saturday meeting in Denver a couple years ago at the ASRM annual meeting, and they had people talking about marketing that day, and you were in the audience. And then I asked my friend Sam Chantillis from Dallas, and he had started using you, and we were concerned about our web presence, social media presence, and keeping our market share as more competition from an academic program was pushing in on our territory, so to speak. So we thought we needed to be more aggressive and invest in that, because for the previous several years, we really hadn't needed to do any kind of marketing because we were the only clinic around, and then that's changed. And so we've needed to become more aggressive, and the idea of using someone who's specialized in fertility clinics appealed to me.
I think a lot of
other marketing people, and it's not the same.
What does it sound like when you talk to other marketing people?
They give you kind of a cookie cutter approach, that they use for any other type of business. None of them are really even specialized towards the medical field for the most part. So they look at marketing a medical clinic the same as marketing a car dealership, or the same fertility clinic the same as a family practice clinic. And those are obviously two different things.
And I think so too, hence me starting the business in this. But I've spoken at SREI and SRM and MRS, and a lot of people have seen me speak there. And sometimes I get the impression that people think that I'm full of hot air. Sometimes maybe they do. Maybe I'm just self-conscious about it. And but I sometimes think that, and I think if anybody would think that, you would be that type of person. I see you as a skeptical person. So did you think that in the beginning?
Well, I've always thought your haircut needed to be altered. It's a little strange, but I think, marketing people are kind of more artistic realm people anyway. And so, I figured, all right, he just looks strange, and that's because he's in marketing.
Well, yeah. So normally our correspondence is pretty short. That is to say, my correspondence from you is pretty short. If we're in a meeting, you'll just say, yep, got it. Or you'll make fun of me in front of my team for talking too much. Or, I sent you an email about doing this, and it's just, okay. So you're kind of a man of a few words in general. But a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about moving to the next phase. You said, I've been impressed with your work ethic and results as of late. And I thought, or especially as of late. And I thought, holy cow, from Don Young, that's like a 10,000 word essay. I've been told my girlfriend about it.
That's, where that comes from is, I didn't have a smartphone until about 3 years ago. And so I had my flip phone, and as my kids would text me, and I'd have to respond like I'd use a Y for yes or an N for no. And
yeah.
And so it's kind of continue with that is, even though I have a smartphone, I don't type. So it's quick, and I haven't really mastered that voice texting. So anyway, that's where that comes from. But I think, my friend, Dr. Chantillis in Dallas was also impressed with you too. He's maybe a little more verbal than I am, but Yeah. Especially now, I think, everybody would always take the response when your numbers are down, as with COVID-19, you get hesitant to spend money. That's a natural human reaction. And the marketer's standard line is, oh, now's the time to really push it. Well, you have to strike that balance of, you have to be cost effective with your marketing in these days, with what's gone on, all of our incomes are taking a hit this year. But I think you responded well to my concerns on the cost part, with this virus also. And I think you also made the comment to me that if we ever had any issues, to call 24/7, and this obviously has been one of those times where you need a little reassurance on what you're doing.
That must have been the COVID talking. That doesn't actually. Normally, that is not me. Normally, I try to say I'm building a system so that we take care of all the important things during regular work hours, and that we don't have these little fires going on. But when COVID happened, as it was happening, it's like March 10th or whatever, things are still going on. March 11th or whatever it was, the NBA closes their season. It was like Wednesday, and it was speeding up so fast from going week to week to day to hour to hour. And that's when, we were, especially March and April, just touching our clients so much and making sure we were doing different things. But yeah, how do you feel like we did during it? I guess I was really nervous about I know that there's times where people step up, and then there are times where, all of a sudden you don't hear from the people that you need. And so I tried to make sure we were in the former camp. How do you feel like we did with that?
Good. I think the best thing that we have done this last 2 months is where you guys pushed me to do the Facebook Live and answer patients' questions. I've gotten more positive feedback from patients from anything in the last 30 years of practice was that Facebook Live, that it reduced their stress levels so much. And it was reassuring to them that we were around and we were answering their questions and communicating with them. So I think that was like a master stroke to do that Facebook Live, start doing that. That really was a benefit.
I'm happy to hear you say that. Sometimes people just come to me and they say, like, do what you did for them for us. And I tried doing that in the beginning, and I came into the field in 2014, had pretty big success with my first 2 clients, and then just tried doing the exact same thing for the next 2 or 3, or I would say the next 5, tried to do the exact same thing. And it either didn't work or just didn't work quite as well. And that's when we came up with the system. And you and I are now, meaning your company, Mid-Iowa Fertility, and my company, Fertility Bridge, are now in an ongoing engagement. But it didn't start that way. We started off with a diagnosis, then we moved to the treatment plan, then we did one implementation project that was successful, then we moved on to ongoing. And I think a lot of times people are thinking, when I'm reaching out to them for that first diagnostic, that it's got to be an ongoing engagement, or that it's only $600 and I'll give people their money back if it doesn't work. So I guess, what was that like to move from, because each time we're basically revisiting the idea of, do we still want to be working together when we go from diagnostic to the plan to the first implementation, and each time you wanted to move on to the next. So what was that like?
Yeah, I think having a plan is good. Some of it, I just want to have it laid out. And so I wasn't too concerned about that initial investment, so to speak, because it's not much money, right? Yeah. It's when you get into some of the other stuff, obviously you can spend as much as you want on the advertising side. So you have to kind of look, I think, at your market and what your budget is for that. And that was something that you made a comment of, you're going from spending $0 on marketing to, this is like a night and day change. And that was stressful for me, but now I think it has, and it is continuing to pay off on that, for which I think is going to be really important the next 2 years. Because I think there's going to be a lot of struggling clinics for a couple of years. This isn't something we aren't going to go back to 2019 numbers probably until 2022. Yeah.
I don't think so either. That's just my personal read on the situation. But I also don't think that it's helpless either. So
No.
It seems like there's a lot of docs that have the idea that it's either everything is gravy and I don't need to do anything. I don't need to do anything for marketing, or I just need to do some bare minimum of marketing to check the box. But everything's gravy. I've got so many patients coming in, it doesn't matter. Or, oh my gosh, something like COVID-19 or the Great Recession happens, and I shouldn't do any marketing because there's nothing that I can do to change it. I just don't think either of those are a good spectrum. You've been on either side of it. So how do you feel like, like you talked about, we started doing those Facebook Lives when things were at their worst in the middle of March 2020.
Yeah.
And like you said, it started to have an impact. So how do you feel about the idea of that, well, there's nothing people can do to change their destiny if it really is that bad for the next 2 years?
Yeah, no, I think you can. And, the other part of this is I'm 60 years old, so I'm on the tail end of career. And I was seeing this pressure coming from the university that I wanted to respond to, because I have a competitive spirit I started my practice from scratch back in '93, right out of fellowship, and build it up. And I want to leave it in a better place. I don't want to leave it where we aren't on the level that we've always been for years and years. And so I was willing to make this investment at age 60. Whereas, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have made that kind of investment. But I think where you will individualize your plan for the market. So because Des Moines is different than Dallas, which is different than New York, which is different than Chicago, right? All those are different areas of the country that need a little different tweaking, and the density of fertility doctors, like Dallas or Houston has way more fertility doctors per square mile than Omaha.
And those in the markets are different, and the practices are different. For one of your earlier projects, we did a video campaign about your patient approach style and your partner's patient approach style. I can't just take that and copy that to the next group over. That came from the plan when we got to know you and we got to know your partner and the culture of your team, and thought, okay, what are their strengths? Not trying to replicate the exact same thing that we did somewhere else, but what are the strengths? What are the needs? And it was about that. And I don't even know if I've told you this yet, but we won an award for that video. We won a Telly Award for that video.
Is that a made-up award?
It's some huge award. So there's like there's probably hundreds of categories, but you've got companies like Microsoft and Amazon and Wendy's, and you got really huge companies. And the award we won, I think, was business to consumer, but I still have to see what the exact segment was. But that's because it was authentic to you. I used to think awards were just corny agency things. We didn't even submit it. The videographer did. And so now I think it's cool because we won one, but that was because it was authentic to you all. And I didn't try to have Don Young be someone different. I just found the angle that your patients have always liked you for, and just made a way to have more people see it so that they refer to you.
Yeah, and I think that's, my partner and I have totally distinct personalities and how we approach patients, which, as anybody who's brought in a partner after being by themselves for a long time knows, it's kind of like marriage without dating first. And so it's a little rough at first, but then, you kind of get used to each other and find your way. And some people never do that with partners, but we've been able to do it for a long time now. But I think you guys interpreted that very well in the differences between Dr. Cooper and I, our personalities.
And so I'm trying to build a world-class firm. That is not easy to do. And so I don't think that we are a world-class firm. I'm trying to get there. I heard one person say marketing is throwing the ball and the practice has to catch it. And now I'm saying, well, it doesn't matter if I'm Tom Brady. If the practice can't catch the ball, they don't care. You don't care if social media engagement goes up. You don't care if we have an award-winning video. You care about new patients, and some people don't even care about new patients. They only care about number of procedures. And so to do that, to actually be a firm that can help someone get from point A to point B to really increase those volumes and almost guarantee it is not easy. And so I don't pretend that we're a world-class firm yet. I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm working my tail off to build it, and our team is getting bigger, and our team's coming from the community, and they're working their tails off to do it. What do you think that we lack in?
What do you think you lack?
Yeah.
Well, obviously a choice in hairstylist. Yep. Might be worth a trip somewhere, maybe go to New York City to one of those fancy places for a haircut, Griffin.
So both you and Sam Chantillis make fun of me for my hair, but both of you said that you remembered me because of it. So that's a little marketing.
Yes, and Sam and I have known each other for a long, long time. We both trained in Texas. Weakness-wise, I know what the weakness is. It's obvious. The weakness is how much you cost, because you're pricey. Yeah, that's your weakness.
The one bad thing that I want people to say about me is that I'm expensive.
When years ago I was talking to a cosmetic dentist friend of mine, and we were talking about my practice, and he asked me how much I charged for inseminations, and I told him, and he's like, you need to charge more, because if you don't charge more, people aren't going to think you're any good. So the next day I went back to the office and I raised our prices by 50% on inseminations, which meant we went from $100 to $150 at the time. And nobody ever batted an eye. None of the patients ever even batted an eye about it, So it's that with the marketing, I guess.
Yeah. And I don't do it for that reason. People ask me how much does marketing cost. I know that initial offer is $600 right now. Maybe in a few months or a year, but it'll be $1,000 or $1,500. Oh, that's what I know. And I'll tell you the rest as I know it. But the reason why we do it is because we are looking at what's the overall end goal. The overall end goal is attached to new patients, procedures, and revenue. We're trying to get there. We're not crossing things off a bucket list. So could I charge less money and just do an overall service and just go to the mean as opposed to the individualized practice needs? I could, but when you look at how many in any given group meet the mean exactly in a situation like this, it's almost always zero. And I just know that, I could probably have shorter engagement, or I could probably have engagements of a certain amount, and just, it's like the cable bill for people. But I just don't, I don't find that fulfilling. I like knowing that we are moving the needle on real things. We're making more money than we're costing. Yeah, we sometimes can be a big invest. Sometimes we're the more expensive guys. Sometimes we're the cheaper guys, but that we're moving the needle. And I think doctors always have that question mark. Business owners always have that question mark. Is it worth it? And you come out and said, I'm expensive. I think others that you've mentioned in this interview would say the same thing. But you've still moved from one engagement to the other. So why is it worth it? If we're so damn expensive, why is it worth it?
Yeah, because it's because you're a subspecialist like we are, right? So you can go, every town has marketing businesses. I mean, that's a part of any town in America. It has marketing businesses. Not every town in America has a fertility clinic, and fertility doctors are subspecialists. And so you have that subspecialty in marketing of fertility clinics, which is unique. You could probably expand into plastic surgery clinics and use your same model with plastic surgery, because it'd be very, very similar, as another subspecialty that you could be a marketer for without too much trouble.
People say that to me sometimes. They say, well, if there's only 250, 300 independent, privately owned groups in all of the US and Canada, that is a tiny niche to call on. So people say, why don't you open up to another division of healthcare? Aren't you trapping yourself into a box? And to me, it's not like locking in a closet. It's the closet from Narnia. It is a whole nother world. And every time we figure out one thing, I want to figure out the next thing. And I want to do it until we can tell somebody that if you do this exact thing, we can guarantee a range of this exact outcome. And we're getting fairly close to that. But, you start off with one problem, which is community management for fertility centers on Facebook. And then I start doing other social media, and then start doing Google ads and video. And then we start helping with call center training, and then start helping with follow-up and reporting. And it's until I can throw the ball so well that even almost the lousiest practice experience could catch it, as long as they're willing to participate in the process, then I feel like we're not world class. So I would rather go deeper than infertility and keep going deeper than do a side, expand to another niche like plastic surgery.
Yeah, I think the other part of this is that, and I think you made this comment to me, is, the doctors and then the staff have to buy into marketing. You have to be willing to take that step, like that Indiana Jones movie. You gotta be willing to take that step over the chasm. And then once you do, then you get more comfortable on the marketing side of things.
I'm kind of glad you brought that up too, because one of the things that happens in the beginning when I'm talking with someone is they'll often say, I'll talk to my marketing director. And from the first diagnostic that we do, is I want everybody in the room. We can go down to one person. You're not involved with all the project management stuff. You're not involved with all of the social media training stuff. But when it's the beginning, it's our brass and your brass in a meeting, and that still needs to be true, even though now we're starting to work with really big groups. And in that case, it's like, I'll wait until I have a relationship with one of the founding partners. I'll wait till I have a relationship with that other young partner that listens to our show all the time and just is really hungry and is actually a fan of our stuff. I'll wait until I have a relationship with the marketing officer. I'll wait till I have a relationship to the CEO, because of that buy-in. And so what would you feel like it would have happened if I didn't require that, if we didn't require that in the beginning and just and just started a conversation with your office manager? What do you think would have happened?
It would have fizzed out over time. because I've experienced that before with other things, like redoing the website or whatever. You get, it fizzes out. Yeah. But that's where I think where you bring that comprehensive approach in fits better. I've always had radio salespeople calling on me, or TV salespeople calling on me and want me to do a TV commercial or radio ads or whatever, and it's the same spiel every time, and you may do it for a little bit and then you just kind of fall off the wagon with it, and it's hard to quantify some of that advertising too.
That's true whether it's a single doc practice or a multi-partner group like yours or a large group with lots of partners. It's true no matter the scale, especially when we start to talk about things, because if you actually want to make a real difference, if you want to have a real impact, you have to have that total buy-in, and it can't just be one person like the marketing director putting their neck on the line, because then as soon as something is inconvenient or weird or the first iteration doesn't work that great, then they panic. They're not going to put the rest of their capital out there, and the whole thing can go kaput in a worst case scenario, or in a best case scenario, it just kind of has okay results. And I don't want the marketing director or the office manager to put their neck on the line at first when I know that something is going to have a more dynamic solution. So I would rather get everybody to buy in, to have it be part of their idea, so that it's better set up for success. And something like, you doing that live show, if there's all types of different solutions that we could do or could have done. But if it's your office manager, like having to bring you an idea like that, it's just not going to happen, or it's going to happen once and fizzle out, and so you've actually stayed a part of the process more. Do you feel like you're too involved sometimes?
I think maybe I've had a little more involvement than my partner. Yeah, but I knew that going in that would probably be part of that. That I've always done the business side. That he hasn't had an interest in that. But I think maybe some of it, like with the Facebook Live, I've done more of that than he has. It's not on his priority list every Wednesday lunch, whereas it is on mine.
That's a good point. There are some partners that just aren't into it. I try to flush out who is and who isn't from the beginning. We're working with 12 doc groups, 20 doc, 25 doc groups, and there's no way that we're getting all 18 partners in on something. But I really try to get, who is really going to be involved here? And I just try to get as many as I can. And sometimes it's 4 and sometimes it's 9, but you try to find out who those people are. And of course, you never truly know until you've been doing it for a long time. And in your case, Dr. Cooper doesn't care until the day that he does. And that happens sometimes, where all of a sudden somebody cares. So I just do my best to flush it out from the beginning. I try to run my business in a way that people would say good things about us, ASRM or PCRS, when I'm not around. And I don't give out referrals, because I feel we've got so many case studies on our website. We're doing something like this where people can watch it and listen to that. I don't want to give out your cell phone number for a couple of reasons. It's one of our policies. One of the reasons is you shouldn't be doing my selling for me. You shouldn't be doing my consulting for me. I also think it's taxing on the relationship. Like right now, I'm withdrawing from the Bank of Don Young to ask you to do this, and I'd rather only do it once, which is
my nap time.
It's
It's my Friday afternoon.
So that your wine doesn't get interrupted so that your racing time doesn't get interrupted. And so I rather just do it once and not give people your cell phone number. But what would you say if people ask you, it's especially, and let's say they're either at the foot in the door offer, they're thinking about just doing the $600 offer, or we've done that and we've diagnosed the high level what they need and we present a plan. And then they're thinking, well, what are they like? What would you say to
Um, I think that you guys are fairly blunt. You could probably even be more blunt on, hey, you need to fix this like pronto. But I think it's a worthwhile step for fertility clinics, because I think we did not experience it for several years, but almost all other fertility clinics are in a competitive environment, you know, and like it or not, as a doctor, you know, this is a business and you are competing for patients, and marketing is how you win that battle. You know, it's how you, not just on the quality of your care, communication, all that, but you have to have that extra edge, which marketing will bring you into your competition, you know, against your competition. So, yeah, I would tell people to go ahead and take the step, especially the initial one.
So other than cutting my hair, which now I can't even do in COVID times, and other than being cheaper, which isn't going to happen either, because I'm still building out this team and I'm bringing some great people on. So that ain't happening. Other than those two things, what would you want me to change or do?
I think, you know, one thing people to maybe make them more aware of is the cost of like, you know, the Facebook and Google ad stuff. So, you know, all of a sudden you don't open up your credit card bill and see a big surprise. You know, maybe say, hey, you're going to be seeing these kind of dollar amounts on your credit card each month, to prepare them for that kind of stuff.
So that's all agreed upon in a budget beforehand. Do you feel like we did, and it's in the statement of work of what budget we go up to, but do you feel like
so
we just don't communicate enough, or do you not open?
Yeah, on that,
doc,
I think to make that a little more clear.
Okay.
Numbers wise. And then I think, you know, also to tell people, I think that, you know, billboards aren't going to work in New York City, or billboards aren't going to work in Charlotte, North Carolina, or radio ads aren't going to work. You need to do this. And I think I've learned a lot on that. I mean, I've heard it from my daughters who are young. I mean, they aren't that young. They're 30 and 38. But, you know, on that social media part, that has been the thing that I think has struck me the most over my career now, especially this last 10 years, is the whole social media aspect of medicine. And, you know, the reputation management part, I think, is huge.
Neither of those things are going away too. And
yeah.
When people say they're doing social media, it's like saying we do the internet. We do whatever. The social media is just the slang for the current state of the internet. You can do OBGYN outreach, you can do reputation management, you can hit every layer of the funnel. It's a good point.
Yeah. But anyway, so
any other jabs you want to take? I mean, I've really appreciated that you took a half hour and had this conversation. I also have enjoyed working with you a lot for the last year. Our team is very fond of your team. Any closing thoughts that I didn't ask you, or any last jabs?
You're BSing me again, as usual.
The first time we ever spoke, he thought I was BSing him because I said I was from the Midwest because I'm from Buffalo, New York. And
Yeah, and that is not the Midwest. Believe me.
so if anyone from New York City watches this, you tell us what you think. So, well, I appreciate it, Don. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hey, Griffin.
Yep.
Glad you got to talk to me.
It's your pleasure, Don.
Goodbye.